walls of rendezvous, on through the shores of Tripoli. We fight our country's battles in the air, on land and sea. Searching high for light and freedom, and to keep our honor clean.
Before we get started, I just want to give Southnode a quick shout out. This isn't a sponsored video, they've been helping me out quite a bit recently, so I decided to show them some love. If you're after some top of the line servers at decent prices, check them out. As most of you should be aware by now, the US Marine Corps has been released with version 3.0, so let's get stuck into it. To start things off, assault amphibious vehicles have been added with the US Marine Corps. We get two variants, a logistics and an assault variant. And with the assault variant, we get the first AGL, the MK19. The weapon sights are pretty basic. You have a non-stabilized turret and two-stage zoom. As you would expect, the MK19 is quite effective in wiping out concentrated areas of infantry. With the 50 cal, it can also take on other light vehicles quite well due to the high HP. There is one issue with the MK19. You can fire a continuous stream near a repair station as long as you have ammo on the fob. The return of the Humvee is here. We get three variants. We get the M2 open top and the M2 crows like you would expect, but we also have the M2 open door. The open door variant, just like how it was in reality, offers a lot less protection and it means you can get shot out quite easily. I think to make the open door variant a lot more useful is by cutting the entry and exit time in half. As you'd expect, the Marines also get their LAV-25. Now it's quite comparable to the Aussie ASLAV, with the main differences being the ASLAV has a little more AP and HEI ammo, and the Marines LAV, they have a pintle mounted M240 with an MGO optic. The main gun sights are pretty basic, but you get automatic range finding as well as stabilization, and the reticle itself is different compared to the CAF and Aussie. Now for a lot of people this is quite unexpected as boats were confirmed to never come, but here we are, they are here. They turned out to be a stretch goal for OWI and they managed to add them in. We get four variants, one with the M240, one with the M2A1, a transport and a logistics. Even though only four were shown in the patch notes, there is a fifth, the cord variant, which can be found on the proving grounds. If you're going to use this, don't be like these guys. Remember, boats can't outrun bullets. Avoid hot landings, especially going towards enemy. The Marines get their beloved UH-1Y, known as the Venom. Compared to other helicopters, it has a lesser supply capacity, but is also more maneuverable and nimble. You can also hang out the door and catch a breeze. The Venom also has a very powerful tool, an inbuilt scout cam, which makes this helicopter's spotting and scouting ability very, very good. A lot of people weren't expecting it, but the Marines get the M1A1 Abrams. It's pretty much on par with the Aussie M1A1. For both US factions, the barrel of Abrams will now have names that are selected from a random preset pool. The Canadians also get their very own variant of the UH-1Y, the Griffon. It's pretty much identical to the Marines' Venom, apart from having 100 less supply. It also has its very own scout cam, though it's mounted to the side rather than under. The Canadians will also get the LAV-II Coyote into their vehicle pool. Like all the other LAVs under the Canadian faction, it is not amphibious, but it does have a higher ammo count compared to the Aussie and US Marines. The Marines will get the M27 in a limited capacity. The recoil of the weapon is extremely controllable in both single fire and fully automatic. Deploying the bipod, as you'd expect, it's a bloody laser beam. The M27 with the SDO optic is also quite controllable while standing and crouched. Deploying the bipod, again, a laser beam. Then there's the M38, the DMR variant of the M27, with the 8x loophole, again, extremely controllable. If you're going to have the Marines, you need the M16. Specifically, the M16A4 has been added to squad. Aside from being an iconic weapon of the early Marine Corps days, the weapon is quite controllable in both single fire and in burst mode. The M16 with the ACOG, again, also controllable. The SMAW has been added. for the hat option for the US Marines. It has a functioning spotting rifle, which is nice to see as many games miss this detail, so you can zero in your shot before firing. Though it does suffer from the inventory issues where you have to swap between the spotter rifle and the main weapon itself. This is a code limitation, but it will be addressed in the future. The Marines also get the SAW, but the main difference is that they get the SDO optic with theirs. They also get their very own M240, but with the MGO optic. There's quite a few audio changes, and I'll give my thoughts at the end. Alrighty, so my thoughts. The M27 and the SMAW sounds are superb. The M16 has the same problem as the new M4 sound. It's a bit too soft and it sounds quite breathy, like it's been overgassed. Andis has been putting a lot of emphasis on the mechanical aspect of gunshot sounds. He's trying to nail the sounds of what it sounds like from the shooter's perspective. He's moving in the right direction, but there's quite a few imbalances when it comes to the sound layers. When you shoot an AK-74, the reciprocating handle and how the bolt moves gives the gunshot profile a chatter, which Andis has nailed. The problem is the mechanical sounds are overshadowing everything else, so there just needs to be some rebalancing. The new DShk sounds are quite nice, though they could use a little reduction in the mechanical sounds. The new M2 sound isn't too bad, but it could use a bass reduction. You won't get stuck with one camo pattern for all environments, as you'll have woodland and desert pattern marpat. The Marines loadouts, I'm going to give a few brief thoughts on it, as I think there needs to be some things addressed just to balance it out a little bit. Even though the Marines are known for their marksmanship with iron sights, and they had a heavy use of irons in the early days of the global war on terror, I think too many roles have iron sight options. I feel like the aerotech could be utilised a bit, as the Marines did have limited use of them in the early days of the war on terror. I also see potential for a historical Easter egg layer for the Marines, similar to that of the Aussies and their F88 only layer on Cora, where the Marines have iron sight M16s on Fallujah or something. They could also potentially create a more modernised Easter egg layer where there's a lot more M27s involved. Anyway, that's my thoughts on the roles. I'd just like to point something out in case you guys missed it. The medic role has been renamed to the corpsman for the Marines. We now have environmental interaction in the game. We're walking in mud, makes your boots muddy. Crawling through certain surfaces will progressively get you dirtier. Wet mud will get you dirty pretty quick. Standard dry dirt will get you dirty quick, but not as quick as wet dirt. Rocks will get you dirty not as fast. And crawling on grass, well, you're not going to get dirty super quick. It doesn't end there. You can get covered in snow and sand, as well as soaked in water. You are supposed to be able to wash it all off in water sources, but that appears to be broken currently. A nice little immersive aspect added, where raindrops will drip all over your uniform, soaking you, as well as all over your weapon. The effect itself is quite nice, as you can actually see the water dripping down your uniform. It also affects vehicles, though it is slightly buggy when sitting inside as it appears to go through glass. The effect is also applied to deployables. To my knowledge, this feature is only available on the alternate Pacific Proving Ground map and hasn't been added to the rain layers of the actual maps themselves. Simulated water has now been added to the game. The water has fully modelled waves, buoyancy, as well as water drag physics. Looking at the comparisons on screen, it definitely flows a lot more naturally. The further inland you come, the calmer the waters are, though there appears to be no foam or water breaking on the shores. The way characters interact with water has been changed completely. More realistic water rippling effects are applied when moving through it, as well as some water disturbance when jumping into water. The drowning effects and system has been completely reworked. Drowning now takes longer, but you also move a lot slower the deeper you go. Vehicles that are non-amphibious, aka sinkers, now interact with water very differently too. The deeper the water, the slower they get, and they also start to fill up with water before sinking. They'll take damage over time before eventually burning out, which is kinda weird, but it is what it is. Walking through chest-height water will now raise the weapon above your head. Just another one of those little cool immersive things. With simulated water comes the amphibious system. The farther out from shore you are, the more that waves and the buoyancy will affect your vehicle. When heading into the water, the bow flaps will raise, which is a nice little attention to detail for all amphibious vehicles. And if you exit the vehicle while in the water, you'll pop out the top, so you won't fall down and drown. In the vehicle legend, it will display if your vehicle is amphibious or not. The map that has released with version 3 is Black Coast, which is based on the northeast Black Sea and is roughly 4.5 kilometers square. With it comes some amphibious invasion layers to give you that amphibious experience. Black Coast is filled to the brim with a lot of new assets, creating a ton of new point of interest that are unique. This really fills the map out and makes each area feel different to the others, which is a welcome change as a lot of maps in Squad feel a bit too much of the same. One point of interest that we won't be seeing a lot of is the submarine pen, as it's currently only on the Seeding V1 and ASV1. It currently has performance issues tied to it and is going to be worked on over time. One thing that really impresses me about the map is its detailing. It actually feels and looks like a war-torn area. There's a lot of fortified areas with defences which make it feel like there was a last stand there, especially when it's scattered with destruction. There's a lot of opportunity for flanking too, as a lot of buildings do have destruction, fence lines are destroyed, and there's a lot of tree lines. The map also has a lot of foliage and a lot of trees, so expect a lot of bushwookies, or as Wonder puts it, worm warfare. The map's performance isn't great, it performs worse than Fallujah in its current state. The frame rates are inconsistent, some areas I'm at 40 FPS and others I'm at 90. The second map added is the Pacific Proving Ground, which is essentially the amphibious Jensen's Range. The map is made up of a couple islands, with the main island housing all the vehicles for you, while the small outer islands have vehicle wrecks and targets for you to shoot. The USS Essex is present on the map. The ship's model is top notch, whoever worked on this did a fantastic job. It doesn't move, it is static, but you can utilise spawns and the vehicles from it. Narva's received a little bit of love with its landscape material being updated. Even though it's only a minor change, it does bring up the visual quality of the map. Narva can be an eyesore and it does look outdated compared to other maps. Hopefully it'll receive some more love in the future. All weapons have had their point shooting or their hip firing recoil animations increased to be made more intense. Don't worry, the actual recoil values themselves have not been altered, so recoil hasn't actually been increased, it's just visual. So if it feels like recoil has been increased, just be aware there's a placebo. Admin cam player outlines have returned, they are no longer broken. All you have to do is press 7 while in admin cam and they'll turn on. V3 did have some optimizations done, mainly in the area of textures, which should reduce the memory load. This should make frames a little more consistent for some people and help people out with lower spec PCs. Don't expect huge results though, just expect maybe a minimal increase in performance. Offworld is aware of the issues currently with stability, and we should expect more optimizations coming in future patches. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.